Once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Brian Christopher Koberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Brian Koberger was doing right before his arrest. Police say as a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect, he was in pajamas and latex gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Phil J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
You guys know what to do, just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. Hope you guys are having a fantastic weekend. It's Sunday. The end of the weekend is coming to an end. I'm still on vacation for a few more days, so you guys will see me for the next few days. In fact, I'll be doing this tonight. Tomorrow, though, however, you probably won't, unless something major breaks in one of the cases that we cover. Tomorrow night, I'm a football fan, and so my team's playing, and so I'll be watching the Steelers against the Miami Dolphins tomorrow night. So I won't be live tomorrow, but I will be back live Tuesday night. We'll be talking about the Summer Wells case. I'll be on with Dr. Vona and Ryan Finds Truth, and we're going to be talking about a couple of interviews that Candace and Don Wells have done in the past. And Ryan kind of wants our perspective, mine and Dr. Vona's perspective on those interviews. And so you don't want to miss it. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for that. And then on Wednesday, around 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern times, I think that's 6 p.m. over there in Nova Scotia, I'm going to have Nick on from Please Bring Me Home. He led the search here recently for Jack and Lilly and the Jack and Lilly disappearance out there in Nova Scotia, which is going to be the topic of tonight's conversation. He led that search, and we're going to have him on. We're going to talk about the search, talk about what was found, what wasn't found, what was the relevance of any of the items that were found, those type of things. And so hit the like button for that, hit the subscribe button. And then on Saturday, I have a special guest also, Mike Gatto. He's going to be joining us. I believe he was a politician out in Los Angeles. I'm still learning a little bit about him. I believe his father, his life was taken at the hands of somebody else, when he was younger. And so he's going to talk to us about his experiences with that. So that's going to be the lineup so far. You'll probably still see me on Thursday and Friday. I just haven't planned it out yet that far. And so that's the plan for the week. So like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast from, please hit the 5-star review. I'd appreciate that. Share the content too, guys. If you could share it to your Facebook groups and things of that nature, I'd appreciate it. All right. Hey, there's one thing I wanted to do real quick. Let me see if this works. I haven't tried this yet. What is this one? We're building a little snowman there in the corner. Let's do the candy canes. So it's Christmas time. So let's try to be, I guess, a little bit festive, which reminds me, for those that have been curious about, for little one Rogan, links in the description for her Christmas witch. And I want to thank, Buffy right off the bat for hooking us up. And then we recently just got some of her items in, for little Rogan. So thank you. And as the items come in, I'm going to thank everybody else. But so far the ones that have come in were Buffy's, I believe. And, I know some other folks have ordered some things. I just don't think I've gotten them in yet. And I also want to thank Bubbles and Dolls for purchasing a couple of beers the other day. So thank you so much for doing that. I appreciate that. All righty, guys. So without further ado, let's get into today's conversation. Let's talk about the Jack and Lilly disappearance. Yesterday, I had Daphne from Daphne's Case Files and Dr. Vona on, and I broke some news. And there was, I guess, there was a lot going on with the live chat. There was a lot going on with, trying to keep, the conversations with everybody. And so what I wanted to do is just kind of recap what it is that I had talked about. Also kind of talk about some of the theories that were thrown around in the live chat, in the comment section since, and also that night. And then I also want to kind of just, dispel and, talk about some things that may or may not be proven. So without further ado, let's get into it. Yesterday, we talked about, the blanket theory, or the blanket that was found, the blue blanket. And the blue blanket, a lot of people were kind of trying to figure out what the connection was between Bradley Wong, and because it was his items, it belonged to his daughter, and where it was found. And, I can't say with 100% certainty, but I did find a connection between the two areas. And it was a friend of Bradley Wong's who happens to be married to the bus driver. So the bus driver's wife, her brother is a very good friend of Bradley Wong. So there's your very loose connection. Now, I know some people have questioned whether or not there's something more to it, because it was found out in the wilderness, and it wasn't muddy. It didn't look like it was out there for a very long time. I think people questioned whether or not it was planted for some reason. It was 3 miles away, so I'm not sure, or 3 to 4 miles away. I'm not sure if, putting something way out there is somehow going to affect a search. You get what I'm saying? RCMP has already come out and said that it wasn't anything, that they had investigated it and found that it had no relevance to the case. But when there's not a lot of new information, people will make a mountain out of an ant of a mound. So I don't think it's anything there. I found that loose connection. Now, a lot of people, and I found this out here even more recently, especially from the live show or the comment section, was that there's a few folks that believe that Wong had seen or heard, Daniel that night, and it's in the documents. And a lot of people are like, we side with him, we believe him, which is fine, but the weird thing is that RCMP doesn't, right? And yesterday I kind of pulled this up, but I wasn't able to find everything that I wanted to. And so let's pull it up again. And this says here, Nova Scotia RCMP disputes witness accounts in missing children's case. Now, the first thing that I want to, that came to mind is, let's look at the date when this came in. This was posted October 21st, 2025, right here. Posted October 21st, 2025. This is the original, and this is from the CBC. And witnesses describe hearing a vehicle that night before Nova Scotia children reported missing. This is when everything started to come out and everybody was, getting this information, because the media ended up getting information from redacted documents that were, parts of it were unredacted. This was posted October 17th. So within a matter, and then it was updated October 20th. So within a matter of 3 days, the narrative was that Daniel and Janie were out there for, or Daniel per se was out there in the middle of the night driving around. And within 3 days, now it took 3 days for them to print an article. So I would assume it was probably sooner, probably within 2 days. And then you got to print it, and then you got to edit it, get it to the editor, and they got to approve it. And then they put it up. And, I know now is a little bit different because it's a digital era, and, articles may come out at different parts of the day and things of that nature. But my assumption is that the emails and the dispute of what the witnesses were saying was sent out the 19th. It just took by the 20th by the time they were able to put it out there. So within 2 to 3 days, RCMP is disputing what the media is putting out there. Now, let's go back to the original document, or this one here. This one is posted the 21st. And so why it's different is they reported it, and then it was updated the 20th. And then on the 21st is when a new story came out. So what this means is that the media put out a story with false information. they were corrected, they had to edit the old story because it still existed. So they had to edit it. And then then what they did was they took the next step of posting a new story with correct information. And so why do that if they don't know the answer to the question? Meaning, if they don't know one way or another if Daniel was driving or was not driving, why go to this extent to do this? Why go to the extent of reaching out to the media and explaining to the media that you're wrong? When, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong in the live chat, but isn't it not true that law enforcement isn't really very open with the media in Canada? They don't really come out and speak on much. And yet immediately they're out here doing this. They're immediately disputing what was being, put out there by the media. Now, I had said this before, and this is where Psychic Daniel comes out. And for those that don't know who Psychic Daniel is, it's when I don't think I'm psychic. I don't believe in psychics. What it is I deduce some information and able to break it down and make a prediction based on that information. And it comes out to be true. And, there's a lot of haters that don't think I know what I'm talking about, I guess. And so I don't know what I'm talking about and I keep getting things right. It must mean because I'm psychic, right? But I digress. And everybody here saying, yeah, it's all hush hush there. It's hush hush. But for them to come out and come forward with it, but that's where I was going with it. So I had said a long time ago that the information that's redacted, based on my conversation with Daniel, was that because a lot of people were like, well, where's the stuff that Daniel has been saying about his suspicions of Malaya or whatever the case may be? And he told me that he had told law enforcement those things, that Malaya left and that he felt uncomfortable with this or that or whatever, right? And it's redacted. And so that told me that if that's parts redacted, what's most likely redacted is unfound information that's not true. Now, this is also a missing persons investigation, not a criminal investigation. So we're not going to find founded accusations, because if they found anything that were founded to be true or to, be worthy of an investigation, then this would have changed into an investigation, not a missing person still, or a criminal investigation. Well, anyways, so I kind of forgot where I was going there. Well, anyways, so give me a second. I'll pick it up. It's right there on the tip of my tongue, guys. Well, maybe it's not. So, they go out there and they do this investigation and, hold on. RCMP never puts out this much information. Information is required to trial to get a conviction. RCMP does Mr. Big operations to get a confession. Oh, that's good to know. So yeah, they do. See, and that's one of the things that I had mentioned earlier on, is right. Because that was one thing that came out, was that is law enforcement saying these things just to get to Daniel so that Daniel can come and say something, so that there's some sort of Mr. Big operation where they're going to get him to confess to something. I think that that's a possibility in the short term. And I'm glad you bring this up, J9 Mac, because in the short term, yeah, but in a long-term situation where it's been several months, I don't believe that to be the case. Now, if we were to go, for instance, in the Moscow murders, where law enforcement there came out saying that this was a targeted attack, this, that, and a third, everybody's safe, go back into your home. The amount of heat and the amount of bad publicity and the amount of criticism that the law enforcement took because they sent out a false sense of security, by putting out this information about Daniel and it not being correct and publicly putting it out there, would put somebody potentially in danger if they truly believe that he was potentially capable of committing a heinous crime. And you're opening yourself up to a lot of problems there legally and possibly somebody's safety. And so in the short term, in a small amount of time, I do think that law enforcement may come out and say something like, oh, well, there's no evidence at this time, or there's not this or that, or they might make a statement like that. The other thing is about these documents that were dropped, and this is one of the points I made last night, was that the documents were dropped in lieu of a court order. You know, the media went to the courts and asked for the courts asked the courts for transparency and to get in some information. And so that's not information that's going to be fabricated or lied upon. And so when you look at this entire scenario here, where the witnesses describe hearing a vehicle, and within 3 days or 2 days, they are disputing the information, that should speak volumes on its own about the accuracy of the information. Now, does this mean that Mr. Wong is lying? I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm not going to say, oh, here, I think he's being honest. I don't know. Do I think he's lying? I don't know. Either way, you know, do I think he's a credible person? No. You know, apparently he was showing how controlled he was last night in somebody's live chat. You know, he had to be told to chill out several times by the members and subscribers of that person's chat. It wasn't ours because he's blocked in ours. And so in one of the other channels, his comments were coming up. People were telling him how to, you know, to chill out and calm down. You know, doesn't really show a whole lot of control there. But does that mean he's lying about what he heard or whatnot? I don't know if he's lying or not, but I know he's inaccurate. Now, let's break down what's in the information here that makes me believe that he's inaccurate about the information. Now, and what I mean by that is maybe perhaps he does remember hearing or seeing a vehicle at late night hours, but maybe it wasn't that night, or maybe it was something completely different. Maybe he dreamt it. I don't know. But Nova Scotia RCMP dispute witness accounts. Now, it says here that Nova Scotia RCMP say that they have found no evidence to back up witness accounts of a vehicle driving back and forth in the early morning near the rural northern eastern home where the two young children went missing. Spokesperson Cindy Bears. Now, this is important because in the next document that we read, it's going to be a different person. So law enforcement didn't even just have one member of their RCMP unit to contact, you know, mainstream media to get the narrative correct or fix it. They had multiple people. But Cindy Bear has said that investigators conducted a thorough review of surveillance footage from the area in Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia, where 6-year-old Lilly and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan were reported missing. So what was done? A thorough review of surveillance footage. And one of the things that we had learned last night was that some of the places where there was surveillance. And so they got that pretty early on. Again, this is a response in October. And so if they went out and got cameras in June, well, they would know the answer to those questions here, because this is so much later. So this goes on to say that Bayer said police found no evidence of any vehicle at that time, such as no driver. As such, no driver has been identified and no presence of a vehicle has been substantiated as a key element in the investigation. You know, so let's break that down. They do not think that the presence of a vehicle has been substantiated as a key element in the investigation. What that means is that at the time when Mr. Wong says that he sees a vehicle, even if there was a vehicle, it would not be an element of they don't believe anything happened during that time. It wouldn't be a key element of the investigation. And I agree. I believe the kids went missing the next morning. And so that's one of the factors there. Now, some of the folks in the comment section were saying, well, Daniel, if they got cameras out there, they were able to review this surveillance. Why don't they pick up the kids walking away? Well, let's look a little bit closer at what Wong actually said. It says here, Wong said he could see a vehicle's lights over the treetops and that the vehicle left their address 3 or 4 times after midnight and into the early morning hours. So he could see lights through the treetops. Now, if you're during the day, obviously, during the daytime, it's going to be hard to see things that are around corners. It's going to be impossible. But light at night travels. And so you may not be able to see Daniel's house, but you may be able to see the lights through the treetops, as Mr. Wong says they were going through. These are his words. Saw the lights through the treetops, not my words, his words. That's something that a camera at night should be able to pick up. And it's not. That's why they're able to dispute this. And even if you go back to the original, I mean, they go to the original, and the only thing that was left there is the first sentence. Two people who lived near Lilly and Jack Sullivan's home told police they heard a vehicle coming and going in the middle of the night, just hours before Nova Scotia children reported missing, court documents show. However, RCMP confirmed Monday a thorough review of surveillance footage from Gairloch and Pictou County found no evidence of vehicles activity at that time. No driver has been identified, and the presence of a vehicle has not been substantiated. And it goes here, RCMP Communications Advisor Allison Gerard wrote in an email to the CBC. So this is a second person, Allison Gerard. And who's this person up here? Cindy Bears, both members of the RCMP reaching out. So multiple persons that are reaching out on behalf of the RCMP investigators to dispute the information. You get what I'm saying? Hey, what's going on, Bubbles and Dolls? Good to see you. If you didn't check it out earlier, I thanked you for the beers that you bought us. Appreciate it. So, to me, when you boil it all down together here, it's a big nothing burger. It's a big nothing burger. It's what it is. And, Wong got disputed. I understand why some folks want to stick to that narrative because it fits their narrative. There's in a world where nothing else is siding with their story. So, for instance, you have these folks that say that, Daniel must have done something nefarious to the kids. Well, there's this huge investigation and lie detector tests and all these other things that have gone on, and that say otherwise. RCMP have come out forward and said otherwise. And so they're going to hang on to the words of a man who's got a credibility issue at the very least, a credibility issue, come out and say these things. And I just think it's funny because, some of the things that they accuse Daniel for, he has no criminal record, with it. And it doesn't mean that he didn't do anything, but it just means that, for instance, like with Bradley Wong, who has a criminal record with those things that they accuse Daniel of doing. And that criminal record involves him. There's a picture there of all the things he stole, which include guns, which you don't steal guns from, outside sheds. It's from inside houses. And so, all these things, it kind of tells you the level of where somebody's at, right? Like if somebody's stealing to feed a habit to that point, that's a pretty strong point. You get what I'm saying? So that's all. Yeah. But yet Daniel, who's admitted to having a drug problem in the past, but has said that, hey, yeah, I may have used this as, and I don't know this to be fact or anything, but apparently he's being diagnosed, and he's been diagnosed with ADHD. And he was self-medicating with stimulants that helped him calm down, and for some other people that might make those folks, super, I guess, edgy or whatever. I don't know. I've never taken those stimulants before. It has an adverse effect on him, and he's open about it. He mentioned it in the interview. He's been open about it with RCMP, but I think there's different levels of persons who do drugs. You got the person that does it recreationally, the person that maybe self-medicates, and then you got the person that can control their habit and they have to go and steal things. You get what I'm saying? They're not on the same level, but you got folks that are side with the worse just because they're saying something that somewhat agrees with what they believe in. which is also against what law enforcement is saying. And so to me, I just think you got to then question some people's, integrity there and things of that nature. Like, what else are you willing to believe just because it sides with your story? Who else are you willing to believe? Not for me. And so now the other thing that I mentioned last night that we were kind of talking about, and I actually spoke to Ms. Vona, Dr. Vona after the fact too, was that, and I got to say this as like apparently or allegedly, because I wasn't there, but I spoke to somebody who was in the search with Cindy and many others. There was a few people. I don't want to say a lot because it was I think like 40 something folks that were out there searching. And within Cindy's search group, the question had came up about Malaya leaving Daniel and leaving the search. So, about a day or two after the kids went missing. And that allegedly this person I spoke to said that they had heard Cindy say that Malaya left because she made her. And one of the things was that was by threatening that she wasn't going to see Meadow again and she was going to have CPS take her away and this, that, and the third. Now, I've spoken, and I'm going to continue to say this because it's just to be fair. I've spoken to two of Malaya's best friends, and they said that it didn't happen that way. Now, I don't believe that Malaya's two best friends were in the ambulance or outside of the ambulance when Cindy and Malaya had this conversation. Maybe Malaya has told her friends that it didn't go down this way, but this was something that a source of mine has said was heard directly from Cindy. And I've heard before in the past, and this was something that I had been saying doesn't really make sense with me because I had heard that Cindy was the one that called CPS on Meadow and Malaya leaving, and that's what some of the things I guess got the ball rolling with where Meadow's at now. And so it just kind of didn't make any sense to me then. But then, hearing this, thinking, is there some sort of like possible control situation there, and a mom also just kind of looking out for the best interest of her daughter. But I asked Dr. Vona, I was like, hey, a lot of people look at Malaya in a certain light because she left, knowing that there's the possibility that because, even her friends, one of them, her best friend, did tell me that she left there because they were not going to leave her there in those conditions. So either way, it was not really Malaya wanting to leave. And that's kind of what I've heard, that Malaya didn't want to leave. But more so was like, I don't want to say forced, but maybe felt like she had no option, especially if the story with the mom is true, because, we then now know that, Meadow's not with grandma. She's not with Cindy, right? She's with somebody else. And I don't know who. Allegedly, it's somebody close to the family, maybe a family member. I don't know. But if it is, it just sounds like Malaya was like, no, I don't want Cindy to be the guardian while CPS investigates all this stuff. Because that's typically how they'll do things at first, is they'll, at least here in the States, they'll try to find somebody who might, especially if they don't have like evidence of something of a crime. And it's like a temporary type of thing. They may try to find like a family member first. And the fact that she didn't go back to Cindy kind of tells me that there was probably, it wasn't, there may have been some bad blood, I guess. I don't know, between them. And it sounds like, and again, I have no idea. I've not talked to Malaya and I've not talked to Cindy about this. I've only talked to people that are close to them. But it does sound like their relationship had been up and down throughout their life. I know that it sounds like that Malaya had apparently spent a large part of her life with her grandmother. Why or what caused it, or any of those reasons, have no idea, and I'm not going to speculate on those things. But I asked Dr. Vonas, like, knowing that there's a good possibility that somebody compelled her to leave that area, to leave that day, not the day of the disappearance, but the day that she decided to go, with the threat of Meadow. You know, she's already lost her 2 kids. You know, they're in the woods. You know, CPS has already said, hey, Meadow can't, or RCMP said Meadow can't be here. It's not safe. They were going to go, she was going to go with Logan. Does that change your opinion of her? Because one of the things is that a lot of people had an opinion set about her. And I asked her, and she said 100% it does. And, you know, given that scenario and some of the other things that we discussed, she was like, yeah, 100%. And so in the live chat, guys, you guys let me know. Now that you guys, this information's out there. And again, it's alleged. You know, I haven't spoken to Malaya. I haven't spoken to Cindy. Cindy hasn't told me, yeah, I said this. You know, this was coming from somebody who heard Cindy say this. But knowing that, you know, put yourself in her situation, you know, and you have a person that's potentially now taking your 3rd child away. What do you do? And does that change your opinion about her and the decision she had to make in that hasty moment? It's not also like she had time to think about it. It's not like she's like, all right, well, let me think about it. You know, I'll give you an answer tomorrow. It was like, hey, you know, they had already decided that Meadow had to go somewhere else and that they were going to go to Logan's house. And so that was already been decided. And all of a sudden, you know, Cindy comes in and says, hey, this is happening and this is happening now. You know, what are you doing in that moment? And, you know, given, you know, their situation, her age and things of that nature, I think it's a really bad situation to be in. And then we find out later that she's, you know, getting treatment, you know, possibly for a, you know, mental type of situation because of, you know, this entire scenario, possibly because many of you guys blame her for what happened to her kids. And she could very well be, her and Daniel very well be, and based on the evidence that's out there, not implicated to that extent. You know, it's crazy. And then I hear folks like these creators that'll come out and say, you know, these people are bad, they're horrible, they're, you know, they're this and that. And if I'm wrong, I don't care. I don't care if I'm wrong, because their actions are deserved of my judgment. Like there's some sort of God or something like that that they have the right to judge these people about things when, you know, they haven't even been charged with a crime yet. You know, and like I said, it'd be one thing if RCMP wasn't coming out here saying that they were basically cleared. You know, if RCMP didn't come out there and say those things, it's one thing. All right, you know, you have all this evidence and stuff, whatever. I get it, 100%. But RCMP is an investigation and documents and everything else that's come out. And so to say that to a parent, like, hey, you know, your poverty or whatever, your decision making, y'all are responsible for this. And, you know, if I'm wrong, or you did something horrible, which is where it's at, that you killed your kids or you did something horrible. And if I'm wrong and you didn't do it, well, you should have lived a better life, or you should have done this better, or you should have done that better. I mean, to me, that's kind of like blaming somebody, a victim. It's like blaming a victim. You know, it's like blaming like a young lady for getting assaulted by a man because of the way they dress. You know, it's the man needs to be able to control himself, or agreeing with an abuser who hit a woman because she didn't pay attention the first time or whatever, and saying, well, she should have paid attention. You know, there's no difference there. I mean, you're driving some innocent people to, I mean, I couldn't imagine. Could you guys imagine that? If you put yourselves in her shoes, if something happened and you were obvious, like honestly innocent, and your kids go missing, and now everybody's looking at you in a certain light. And not only just looking at you in a certain light, but like blaming you and saying some of the most horrific things, like some of the most horrible things, and then turn around and say, well, I'm doing this for your kids. Like it's disgusting, to be honest with you. Again, it'd be one thing if there was some evidence there. Be one thing if there was RCMP coming back and saying, hey, this person here isn't cooperating. This person here doesn't want to take a lie detector test. This person here doesn't want to give up their financial records. This person here destroyed their phone, or this person here, chose to lawyer up immediately. When those things happen, are uncooperative. When those things happen, man, I would say you have 100%, a leg to stand on. But that's the complete opposite in this case. That's like the way opposite in this case. The parents here have cooperated more in this case than I've seen in any case that the parents were found guilty of something. Yeah. So, to me, like I mentioned, I'm not that guy. I'm not going to go and jump to a conclusion and blame a parent when law enforcement has come forward and said that this isn't what happened. It's one thing to keep your mind open, because I'll hear that too, like, Daniel, keep your mind open, something could come up. But like, keeping your mind open, to me, keeping your mind open isn't believing in things that have already been ruled out. In fact, I think that's being closed-minded by not being open to the evidence. Like, to still consider that what Wong said was true, even though the information is in front of us to say that it's not, and RCMP has come forward to say it. It's not to keep an open mind, to keep saying that it's possible that it happened. That's just being ignorant, to be honest with you. And so I won't do that. Now, I'll keep the possibility for something that we haven't heard about, or we don't know about, or hasn't come out about. Those possibilities I'll keep an open mind about when it comes to those things. But when it comes to things that have been already have answers to, why do I have to? I don't understand why that's considered keeping an open mind. To me, it's not. It really isn't. And so, that's right around that. So you guys let me know in the comment section. Does it change your mind a little bit knowing that, when it comes to Malaya, does that move the needle? Because I get it. If she would have just left the first day or the second day without an explanation, or maybe not let me rephrase that, with no explanation, meaning that, and I'm not saying an explanation to us, because she don't owe us anything. That's the other thing too. Like, I'll see some folks say, well, she's pleading the fifth because she's not talking to anybody. And that's not true. She's talking to law enforcement. And talking to the media, or talking to me, or talking to XYZ YouTuber, that's not pleading the fifth if you don't want to talk to them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in today's day and age, I'll be honest with you. It's a crappy situation, but I had like a best friend that was going through a situation where the kid was missing or something like that. I'd be hesitant to go to the media, because, if there's no answers, the folks that are watching this will jump to a conclusion so fast, and everybody will be a suspect, and then it'll even ruin your life even more. That's one of the things that I'm constantly seeing in some of these cases when it comes to the true crime community. I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, but like, they've ruined a lot of families, a lot of innocent families. I mean, even in the Idaho case, there was a group of people that were blaming the parents of some of the victims, multiple parents of the victims, that Brian, at the same time, putting Brian Koberger on a pedestal. I mean, it was insane. It's insane, the things that some of you guys believe. It's wild. It's wild. And so, how's it going, everybody? Let me see. Hey, Dr. Vona's in here. What's going on? Thank you, Beyond Whispers. What did Beyond Whispers say? Oh, let me get some of these here. Nancy Druk comes in with the newest membership. Good to see. Good to see. Barbara Hall, $9.99. Thank you for telling the facts. I appreciate that, Miss Hall. Coming in again with thanking me for the facts twice. Thank you, Miss Hall. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, put a couple of stars in front of it. I'll answer your questions. But yeah, to me, again, fact or fiction, somebody driving around in the middle of the night, fiction, stamp it. And the other crazy thing is, like, didn't somebody say there was supposed to be like a party that night and stuff like that? Sounds like that story is a bunch of fiction too. Let's see. I ended up not following the Sebastian case because of the same thing, mudslinging. Yeah. I thought it said Nancy Drew. I thought it did too. Let's see. Couple questions, guys. What else did I have on here? So I had that. I talked about what Cindy had said. What else came up in the deal? Or what came up last night? What do you guys want to talk about? Let me up with some questions. What do you guys want to talk about? What came up yesterday that you guys wanted some more questions? I know a lot of people were doing it in the comment section. Showing us the facts and weeding out the bull crap. Thank you. I appreciate that. If you're not willing to call the RCMP with your theory, there's a good chance you're talking out of your. And that's the other thing too. So there was like another channel that was calling me, like saying I was BS, and because I didn't believe in Wong, or that I thought Wong was a liar and stuff like that. Even though earlier on in the entire episode I'd said, there's a chance that he's lying. There's a chance that he's just inaccurate and he's just remembering it wrong. And what do you call it? If you think you know more than the RCMP and you think that you've solved this case and you have the evidence for it, what are you doing on YouTube? For one, go take the police exam. You should be a world-renowned detective. And then second of all, like, if you truly believe that, like, that's where you think you are in life, that you're a homicide detective from the other side of the country, and that you're going to solve this case based off of, your nightly interviews and your nightly commentary, man, you got a wild perspective of what the world is. I'm just saying that, being as respectful as I possibly can. When I cover these cases, I'm not trying to solve any of them, guys. I'm not a detective. I am commentating on these cases. When somebody says something, I'm going to bring up the information. Hey, this is what the facts are. That's what I do. I don't try to solve anything. Now, me personally, I think RCMP is correct. I think that the searchers that have come out are correct when they say that there's no criminal offense that have occurred here, and that some of them believe that the kids are still out in the woods. I'm not a true crime conspiracy theorist where I think that, the cops did it, or, cops are lying to protect someone. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what people's thoughts are, why they would believe that law enforcement would be protecting Daniel in this scenario, or Janie, or whoever. Who are they? And that's one of the things that I said, like, last night, like, it's more than Daniel, because and I'm glad I brought this up, because there's two things. You have your lie detector test, and I keep hearing, and I even had an FBI agent on and said that, lie detector tests can be beaten if you take drugs, or you do this, or you're a narcissist, or you're that. And I completely understand and I agree. But let me kind of explain something real quick about a lie detector test from somebody who's actually had to take a couple before for employment. They have a conversation with you. First and foremost, the investigator has a conversation with you. They explain what the questions are going to be. They're going to tell you everything to expect, but they're going to have a conversation with you. They're going to try to get you to open up. The whole purpose of this is to determine whether or not you're under the influence of something. You know, that's part of their goal. Part of their goal is to know whether or not you're under the influence. And then they also start off the test and they're going to ask you some baseline questions. And so a narcissist or a person that can fake a lie detector test or fake when they're lying also has to be able to show that they can lie on cue and it show up as a lie as well, because there's going to be some baseline questions there that are going to be asked. And so baseline questions, they're going to ask you to lie. And so if they're under the influence of narcotics and it's preventing them from, you know, showing a lying response, how are they getting past the baseline questions? How are they doing that? You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, I get it. This whole great fantasy world where everybody can beat a lie detector and test, and everybody's a super genius, and cops are stupid, and can't solve cases. You know, sounds great and it sells books, but it's not the reality, right? So those are the things that go on in the lie detector test. And then you also have to have the fact that in this scenario, you have Daniel and Malaya both passing it. And the crazy thing about it is that they took it on, I don't know if it was the same day, but they took it with two different investigators on two different machines, asked several different questions. So there you go. You know, I get people want to believe, you know, some sort of fantasy or whatnot, but you know, if it was that easy for anybody to go in there and say, hey, you know, all I got to do is really believe my lie. If I really believe really, really hard, and I believe so hard that I think it's true, that I'm going to pass this test. You know what? If you go commit a crime, please, by all means, please opt in to take a lie detector test. Please. I hope that's the narrative for these for crooks, that they think that if I believe really hard and tap my shoes and say, take me home 3 times or whatever, I'm going to go home. You know, and it's going to say I'm truthful. If you truly believe that, and I don't mean to poke fun or anything like that, but this is what it sounds like sometimes to me when I'm hearing some of these things. It's like, nah, you know, they really believes really, really hard. And so, and the investigator's just so stupid. He has no idea that the guy is squeezing his butt cheeks every time he answers a question, so it looks like he's being truthful. Oh, the cops have no idea about these things that you can Google search. They're ignorant to those things. They have no idea of the tactics that people want to do to try to overcome a lie detector test. And here's the thing, though. If you're seeing somebody do that, or you have like some sort of like, hey, we're noticing that this guy's ass cheeks are squeezing every time he answers a question, and that tells you he's being deceitful. All right. You don't need to be if he's being honest, he doesn't need to do those things. You get what I'm saying? And so at the end of the day, is it possible for one person to be in a lie detector test? Yeah, sure. But multiple people, I don't think so. And then you have to account with the evidence that they don't have, and the evidence that they have submitted. And that was one of the things that I had said, is that it's one thing for Daniel to believe that he's capable of outsmarting law enforcement, that he's capable of turning in all the evidence that they're asking for and still be able to get away with it. And it's another thing to actually do it, because that's, if we're to believe that he committed some crime, that's exactly what he did. He handed over his phone. He got interrogated multiple times without a lawyer. He took a lie detector test. He gave his locations. He gave his financial records, all of this stuff. And yet he was able to do what freaking Brian Koberger couldn't do when they got a hold of his name and they started looking into his stuff. And that guy had a PhD, or was going for a PhD in criminology. By golly. But yeah, thank you there, Axeman. If you're not willing to call the RCMP, I took it a step further and saying, let's talk to them. Let's see. Let's see. I'm sure she has a good counsel and a team, papers in order. Sometimes it's, I'm not sure what you're talking about. Put a couple of stars. So I know you guys are talking to me. I'm not sure if you guys are talking to anyone else. Why do I smell? I smell good. What are you talking about? Steelers fan? It's one of the reasons you married me. Dan, why didn't you tell me I was working undercover for RCMP? Didn't you know they employ citizens of this country? But I saw heavy speculation about it. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the next one. But yeah, nah, I'm not working undercover with the RCMP from Texas. That's the. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't be surprised if people believe that. It's crazy how everybody's making up stories on these two lost children. Yeah, you're right. They just make up these stories. It's so insane. You are the voice of reason, DT. You are a real deal. We appreciate you. Thank you so much, Sirius. You're the real deal too. One of our great mods, members, and subscribers and friends. You know, all of that's one good thing about this show is that, you know, the mods, I don't really call them mods. They're our friends, they're our family. You know, we talk on a daily basis. We have communication. If you guys want to be a part of that conversation, hit the join button. You can hit the link in the Discord for the Discord in the community post. And you can be a part of that conversation as well. But I've said I don't know how many times, we have the best mods in the business, and they excellent job. They make sure everybody, you know, if you have an opinion, even if it's against a negative or a different opinion than mine, it's fine. It's like the name calling, it's the cursing and stuff, right? Like there's no need for that. Like I graduated high school like a really long time ago. I like to leave those problems there. You know, I like to leave that drama there. I'm not all about the high school drama, high school fights. You know, if you agree with me and you like the commentary that I'm putting out there and it makes sense, I encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe. If you don't, I mean, that's cool. You know, there's plenty of channels out there that you'll find your fit, you know, over there. You'll have a good time, I'm sure. Let's see. What do you think are the next steps? So the next steps are going to be more searches. And I've already sent out some information to certain persons that are involved in searches so that we can, and I say we loosely because I'm not really a part of it. I'm just more so like giving some information where I can. You know, these other folks, they do the searches, they do all those things quite, that's their expertise, right? You know, I just pointed out the fact that I thought that the blueprints were special and they meant something, you know, that the kids wandered off. And, you know, there's been some great viewers. And like I said, I'm having Nick on from Please Bring Me Home. He's going to be on the channel on Wednesday. And so, you know, I think that the next steps are going to be more searches. And, you know, I think if the kids did wander off into the woods, and, you know, these upcoming searches that once the weather, which is going to be some time because the weather's not good right now. And so it's going to be snowing. It's already started snowing up there. So I don't know when the next search will be. It'll probably be in the spring when things start to melt and things of that nature. But I think that's probably what's next is more searches. I don't think there's going to be anything other than that. She's getting us all PI certifications for this. RCMP has not solved it either. RCMP, well, I mean, there's a lot of missing persons cases that aren't solved, though. I mean, that doesn't mean that they don't know where the kids are. It's just they can't find them at this point. You know what I'm saying? It's not a criminal. It's not a it's not even a criminal case for it to be something that I guess you can use the term solved for. And we have some missing kids here that most likely wandered off in the woods. And, that's where we're at. What do you think the next, more searching for the boot? Okay, so I added to it. Yes, more searching by the boot prints. I've been working with the individual who had put out MV. She put out the 57-page document about where to search. And, I just got an updated photo earlier today of search locations and where people should be at. And, maybe we'll talk about it when we get Nick on a little bit more. But yes, I would say where the boot prints are, I would go into that direction several, maybe 2 to 3 miles in that direction. And then you gotta go to the sides, about 100 meters to one side, 100 meters to the other side, if not 200 meters to each side, to be honest with you. Now, how dense the area is that you're walking may make a difference, but within 100 meters to each side and go several miles, it's going to be a lot to look over. It's a big area. And, like I said the other day or yesterday, there was a 2-year-old kid in Arizona that walked 7 miles. And it's not like the kids were walking through terrain. They were walking through the pipeline. They were walking along the side of the road, up a trail, up an ATV trail. So it's not like they were walking through the thickness of the forest where they couldn't, get a distance away. It was pretty, I think they could have gone a lot further up. Let's see. Steelers fans stop giving desserts. What? Let's see. Put a couple of stars so I know you're talking to me. So you can absolutely pass a polygraph and lie. Yeah, I know you can. I mean, there's a lot of people that like, it's possible that a person can run a mile in like 4 minutes, but is it, everybody? No. And the thing is here, it's more than just one person doing it. It's Malaya too. So both persons have to pass a lie detector, and lie. Now, if it was just one, I'd be like, all right, take it with a grain of salt. But 2, and then you also have the evidence. It's not just that's the only thing we have, right? If the only thing we had was they took a lie detector test, but they didn't hand over their phone, they didn't hand over their financial records, they didn't give any statements to anybody, they lawyered up, and the only thing that they did was take a lie detector test. Then at that point, you're still like, okay, well, we still got to look at the evidence. But when you combine them together and you look at the totality of the information, that's when it starts to draw a pretty clear picture. And to me, I try not to look at things singularly focused. You miss a lot of things when you look at things singularly. For instance, the financial records. Most people would have thought that the only thing that they would have found on the financial records was proof of whether they sold the kids or drugs, which are 2 things that you probably are going to try to find, right? But there's so much more that you can find with financial records. You can find a timeline. You can find where they were at a certain place based on their purchase history. You can find, possible motivations of anything if they're with what they're purchasing. If you find that, they were purchasing things for the future, so that it's not like something that they were planning on something nefarious. If they were buying like duct tape and rope and a bunch of other stuff, then, that says some other stuff too. And in this scenario, and in this situation, it also basically proved that the boot prints were Lilly's because they're the same size with the number 29 on it. Now, if you go to the store and you get those rain boots or whatever that have the number on the bottom of them, the number doesn't last very long. And those boots were relatively new because the number was still there for one. And it was also purchased in late March, and it was early May when this happened. So 6 weeks later. So that should say a lot. That should say a lot. You know, the fact also that there was two of them, they were children's size, and it was out of the way per the documents for anybody else to be out there with kids. But yeah, I mean, it's more than just a polygraph test for me. It's the totality of everything. It's the totality. What's going on, Durwood? Good to see you. Snowing in Nova Scotia? Not, yeah, it's going to be bad for a while. Janie is most offensive, which speaks. I mean, if everybody was attacking you and was making fun of you, you're just going to sit there and take it. I think that's ridiculous. I think the expectations of people is wild. I mean, you're accusing her of doing some things that let's be real, law enforcement is saying the opposite. I mean, they're coming to their backs with this document here that they dispute the witness accounts. They're basically defending them. You know, everything that they have put out there is to show you that they've investigated these people with the intention to determine whether or not they committed a crime and what the results were. And so just because somebody gets defensive, I mean, if I called you certain names and I started calling you names over and over again, you know, I'm sure you get defensive too. You know, I think it's wild to hold somebody up to a wild expectation that most people themselves can't live up to that bar that they're setting for other people, especially when these other people are being attacked, having AI songs created about them or all these other things that have nothing to do with the kids, nothing to do with the kids. And yet you have these AI created images and songs and all these other things just to make fun of them. Like, what? And then you don't want them to get mad. You want them just to sit there and take it. Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I think that's a ridiculous statement. No offense, my man. It's a ridiculous statement. So this one goes, Debbie goes, in my opinion, they all should be in jail for neglect. Although I believe something bad has happened to Jack and Lily, they know and covered it up. I mean, you also got to know who you're talking to, right? Like with Brian Koberger, I was able to figure out a lot of things with Brian Koberger. Like, one of the things I was able to figure out was that he probably had a Broadcastify. And one of the things that told me that was his background, the fact that law enforcement had put out there that he'd only returned to the crime scene once, and it was at 9 o'clock that morning. And that was before law enforcement discovered the bodies, before it made news and things of that nature. So a killer returning to the crime scene is a telltale sign. It's pretty odd. It happens often. And so for this person to have not gone back and live so closely with all the attention, with everything else going on, for him not to go back, that told me a lot about his discipline and about who he is as a person. And because of that, I felt that the only way he would have gone back would have been had he known that law enforcement had not discovered the crime scene. Because if he was just hanging on to the fact that the media wasn't posting about the murders yet, the media posting about the murders has no relation to when the bodies or when the scene is discovered. Because it's not like, you know, the media gets word of the information before law enforcement. No way. And it's not like Moscow is, you know, this megaplex or this huge city or anything like that has these mainstream media outlets that are going to be reporting these things. And so for him to have gone back, knowing that at any point that scene could have been discovered, and cop dash cams or cameras or anything else that would have been set up to try to capture vehicles passing by, knowing he's returning back to the scene in a vehicle that he drove the night before. And so if it was seen in the area on cameras, would be somewhat easy to pick out at this point, because it's also during the day. To give him that confidence for him to do that, knowing who he is and his studies and everything else, that told me he had to have had a radio. Had to have had a radio. And we found out in the documents after his he pleads out that he utilized Broadcastify. And so I say that to say this, that who are we talking to here? We're talking to Janie, we're talking about Janie and Daniel Martell, or Janie McKenzie, Daniel Martell, some folks that live in a rural area. Now, I don't want to sound disrespectful or anything like that, but in a trailer in a rural area, not the most educated, have degrees, have had jobs. I'm not trying to be disrespectful here or anything like that, but they're not PhDs. They're not master degrees. They're not, folks like that. You have in Texas, they be called country folk. Ain't nothing wrong with country folk out here, but hey, you got your country folk that are, just out in country. They, country. These folks aren't criminal masterminds to have been able to have covered up something. They're just not. And I don't think. I think that if you look at these folks and you're thinking to yourselves that they somehow are outsmarting the major crimes unit of Nova Scotia, of the RCMP, and their Cellbrite teams and their software techs that went through their phones and all this other stuff, like everything in between. Yeah, I'll let you go down that hall by yourself. I ain't gonna follow that. Was it confirmed that they disappeared at 9:40, or was it at 8 a.m.? It is not confirmed when they disappeared. However, Janie said she heard them shortly after her call ended at 8:48 a.m. So that's when your window starts. About 8:50 is what I would say, between 8:50 and 10 o'clock. That's your window. It could be, I guess, because 10 o'clock is because when 911 was called. So that's when they were for sure aware that they were missing. But it could have been anywhere from 8:50 to 10, which is an hour and 10 minutes. That's a huge time frame. Huge. And a kid could walk a really long distance in that time. Considering joining the channel, but one day I heard you say it's not beyond you to make false statements, rumors, to see how if it travels to other channels. Have I done this in this case? So what I said was, I hear so many stupid theories about things that I find it that I wouldn't be surprised if I went into somebody's chat on my burner account and said something like, my nephew's cousin's neighbor's uncle's best friend is a police officer that works in the neighboring city who knows another police officer who's working on this case, said this or that, just to see if people would run with it, just without any proof or evidence. Have I done that in this case? No. Have I done that in the Brian Koberger case? Yeah, I did, because the theories were so stupid. Now here, I'm not saying I'm not tempted, because some of the theories are pretty bad too, but no, I haven't done that in this case. But if I did, I have my eye on a few places where I would say, hey, because I guarantee you there's a few creators out there that if I sent them an email just kind of saying, hey, I live in this area and I know this, I guarantee you they eat it up. They buy it like it was like a fat kid likes cake. Like, I like cake. And all it has to do is side with their story. I mean, they're siding right now with a thief that has a criminal rap sheet like crazy, just because it sides with their story, right? So, Have I done it in this case? No, I haven't done anything like that in this case. But I think it's funny. But I did say that because I got tired of these theories that are being thrown out there. And so I was like, you know what? Some of these are so stupid. Like these theories are just so dumb that I'm just going to tell people that I'm making some of these up so that I can get people to think that maybe they're made up. And so they won't be so dang gullible to believe everything that they read in a live chat. Oh my gosh. Like that's the funniest thing I've ever seen is like where I see people eat up something that somebody says in a live chat. Like like there was this guy interviewed named Dave in the Brian Koberger case. And somebody created a fake profile named The Real Dave. Everybody ate it up. That wasn't me, by the way. But everybody ate up everything that guy said. And I was like, this thing is so stupid. The things that people believe. And what it was somebody made up a fake profile saying that that I paid them for the interview with me. And I was like, I ain't never paid anybody but one person. And that was an actor. And that was when we first started. And it was a donation to their cause. And so I paid $100 for them to come out on the show. And they were an actor from a while ago, Danny De La Paz. And he came out on the show, and I had donated $100 to the Homeboys something movement, which was basically to help out young men that have been incarcerated once they get out of jail to find a better future. And so, helped them out there, had him on the channel, and that was it. And so, but somebody had created this fake profile to I guess try to discredit the interview that I had with the guy. And people bought it up. They ate it up. And so what I did was I changed my name to The Real Brian Koberger. And then I commented in that guy's chat and said, hey, since you believe that the real Dave was in here, well, I'm the real Brian Koberger. And you know what? Some people believed it. That's how gullible they are. They're so dang gullible. But yeah, no, I haven't done that in this case. Susie, I know you've been asking and saying that in other chats because that's been sent to me. And so with that being said, I really don't like you talking about me in all these other chats. So goodbye. Let's see. Mitchell says, I think this is the way it's been going on for 7 months. These babies are missing. Malia, Daniel, and Janie, they've been dug through the mud now. And now if you were innocent and you were getting drugged, yeah, I mean, people don't understand that. I was singing Christmas, but spelled it out wrong. By golly, good. That's funny. They believed it. I know they believed it. It was hilarious. DT, so what? He is now a hero? He knew the procedures? Well, what are you talking about? Who's a hero? Who's the hero? He knew the procedures? Well, read. I'm not sure what you mean there. Why would RCMP leave the children in the woods if they believe they are? Why would RCMP leave the children in the woods if they believe they are there? Because they haven't found them. I'm sure they don't want to leave them in there. They can't find them. What's going on, Mary X Moose? Good to see you. You don't fool me. Just wanted to say hello to you. Good. Hello. Good to see you. Thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate that. I'll do this for the next 10 minutes or so, guys. Your mods are the best. You keep the show drama free and respectful. That's 100% it. And that's one of the things that some people keep coming at me with, freedom of speech and this and that. I'm like, when the hell did I become the government that I have to give you your freedoms of speech? This ain't, I'm not Uncle Sam. You can call me Theo Daniel. Theo DT. I ain't Uncle Sam. I ain't going to give you your freedoms or rights. I'll give you the spanking you need. That's what I'll give you. I just, like I said, it's just so funny. Folks come in here thinking that they're going to talk in one way or another, and that I'm just going to allow it, please. Thank you. I appreciate that, Anna. Thank you, Santa. Got great instincts. I appreciate that. I'm not perfect. I don't get everything right or anything like that. But at the same time, I try not to jump to a conclusion. When somebody tells me something about a case or anything like that, I try to come up with an explanation first that would make sense. And then I start to work them out, right, in my mind. And so, like, for instance, if somebody were to say, like, I don't know, something about this case, I guess Daniel and his relationship with Taylor, and they saw the one text message where he said something to the effect that he wanted to lay next to her and then, do something to her. I could jump to that conclusion and think that that means something horrific and all this other stuff. But instead, what I did was I looked at all the messages and I asked questions and I got answers, because she also had bruises and stuff. And, one of the things, she sent me other pictures of the text messages surrounding that. And she's like, oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for you to have your way with me. And it was a kink thing. Which, if I remember correctly, I think I had Dr. Vona on when I was talking about it. In fact, I even told her, because if I remember correctly, I could be wrong, mods and you guys in the live chat will correct me, but I think we broke this down a few months ago where I said, what if it was Taylor's thing to be, rough, so to speak. And Daniel was playing along. Because if I remember correctly, Dr. Vona was kind of talking about how it was something very red flaggy. And I'm like, well, before we jump to a conclusion that it was all him, what if it was her? Like, and what if he was just playing along with her? She's very open about everything being from that, bedroom stuff. And the other bruises of her creating them. So very honest about everything. She was very honest with me about everything, including the motivations. And so I don't know. But if you look at that one scenario from that one text message and don't look at the entirety of the conversation, and that these were two people who were talking sexually with each other, and although it's not something that many or most or half or some people may find appropriate, I'm sure there's a large portion of the population that are into things like that, and rough sex talk, things like that. And so imagine if somebody got into your personal questions when you're being naughty with your spouse or something like that, and they try to use one word out of, or one sentence out of it. It's I don't jump to conclusions is basically what I'm trying to say. A lot of snow in Nova Scotia. Ooh. Be safe out there. Be safe. I put a couple stars so I know you're talking with me. Did Justin Martell get a polygraph test? He did not. Now, here's one thing I heard here recently. I don't know if it's true. So I don't even know if I should say this. Well, I'll put it this way, because Daniel did tell me one thing. Daniel told me about some concerning text messages that revolved around Justin Smith. A lot of people question why Justin was staying at Lorda Campground, and it has to do with some text messages where he was talking about something inappropriate with young ladies, allegedly. Now, that was something that Daniel had kind of mentioned to me a long time ago. And with what I heard recently about, or, not so much that I heard, but what got me thinking is that there's a possibility that it wasn't Brad Wong. Let me put it this way. So Justin Smith went to RCMP and said that Brad Wong told him about the car that he had heard was Daniel. But that's not what Brad Wong told RCMP. So I wonder if it was the other way around. Now, if it was the other way around, where Justin Smith told Brad, "Oh, the car you heard must have been Daniel." See, I don't know if I buy that. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that, because I was thinking about it because somebody mentioned in the live chat or in the comment section, "Oh, well, Justin Smith, according to Plunder, had called saying that he wanted to talk about cars he had seen." What Justin Smith did in the dispatch document said he called saying something to the effect that, and I think it's like 3:00 in the afternoon, that he can, if anybody had any questions about any of the vehicles that were passing by, that he had been there all morning and that he could answer their questions about it. Not that there was a specific car driving in the middle of the night or anything like that. More so that he was kind of close and he could answer questions about cars. And I had brought up the thing. I was like, man, it's kind of weird that while everybody thinks that they're missing, he's over here trying to come up with, hey, if, there could have been a car that took him. But to me, the most logical explanation of anything is boot prints, the evidence behind that. And so even with the suspicious stuff with Justin or Brad, which I agree they're there. It's kind of like in the summer case with Fred Hill. I'm not sold that Fred Hill did anything. But there's some like weird stuff, both of them have like some interesting past with some interesting claims against them. Fred Hill has some really serious ones, but in the end, with this case, I don't think that Justin Smith or Brad Wong did anything to Jack and Lilly. It doesn't fit with the boot prints. It just don't fit with the boot prints. It don't. All right, so Angus goes, Daniel, come on. You got to be playing this to gain friendship, to gain info. You can't possibly believe the parents. Please watch the show last night. I talked about what I believe and who I believe. It's not the parents I believe. It's the investigation in RCMP and what they put out. Now, if you want to believe that you know more than the RCMP and that you're the detective to solve this case, I encourage you to go apply and tell them what to do. Tell them you got all the answers. You know what they don't. Apparently, they're not aware of the CPS, the drugs, the breakups, the lies, and the neglect. RCMP needs your help. They need you, Angus. They need you to join them. They need you to guide them. Will you guide their sleigh tonight in Nova Scotia through the storm to show them that it's Daniel, the person right in front of them? Look at the evidence that they have gotten. I'm sure you're going to find what they couldn't. I'm sure you're going to find that piece of evidence that's right in front of their faces in all of the information and all of the means of his ability and all the cooperation that they have done. I know you can do this, Angus. Promise me you're going to go apply for the RCMP, Angus. And you're going to go through, you're going to take the test and you're going to ace it because you're so smart. You're going to ace the intelligence test. And then you're going to get in and you're going to be a detective right away. In fact, I don't even think you're going to go through the academy. They're going to be like, you're so amazing at this, Angus. We're just going to want you to fight crime right now. We want you to fight crime right now. Today, we're going to give you a cape, badge, and a flashlight. And you have all the answers. You know way more than RCMP. You know way more than Nova Scotia Major Crimes. Apparently they have no idea that CPS was called. Apparently they don't know how that investigation ended, but you do, Angus. You know how that investigation ended, and you know they found something there, right, Angus? You know they found it. It's all there, Angus. I have so much belief in you. You have changed my mind. You have single-handedly changed my mind, Angus. I used to believe every word that Daniel said. I believed every word that Malaya said down to the T. I don't know how I did because they both have said different things, but I believed them. And I believe you now, Angus. And I believe in you. You got this. I want to see your success story. I'm gonna praise your success story. I'm gonna show that picture of the Global Mail or the Global News with you and Daniel and Malaya in handcuffs, and you in between them, championing your success. Let's do it, Angus. I believe in you. I'm gonna champion for you. I'm gonna push. And when you need a referral, when you apply, you put my name, you put my email address and phone number so I can tell them how much you got this, Angus. And then you can use your sidekicks from the other channels and the other creators, and you can have your own division. It'll be a great division of super intelligent human beings that have no more than law enforcement, and that are going to solve all these cases. There's not going to be a missing persons case in Canada that's unsolved for the rest of humanity while you guys are going to be working the cases. You guys are going to find the people that go missing immediately because you know more than everybody. Let's see you do it, Angus. Let's see you do it. Daniel, you say when you combine the information, it begins to be clear. If you're still siding with one side. Angus, I have faith in you. All righty, guys. Let me make sure I don't have anything else that is sticking out real quick. Durwood, explain the wander off theory against Janie saying she heard a female. See, I've asked Janie and she said that she didn't hear a female and that's a bullcrap story. I've looked at everything I possibly can on every interview I possibly could find, and I have found zero evidence of that ever. My buddy, my man. There are certain things that I can say that I'll agree with you on certain things. On this one, I won't. But if you find the link, if you find, the video where she says that in a live chat or something like that, send it my way. And if I'm wrong, I'll correct the narrative. But I went and asked her that, and she adamantly says it's not true. Let's see. DT, Daniel never owned that car that Brad stated, and he said he knew the car 100%. That's interesting, too. Something about a Kia, right? Guide my sleigh. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I was not trying to be rude or ugly, but at the same time, yeah. All righty, guys. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. I'll be back on Tuesday night. We're going to talk Summer Wells. Wednesday night, we're going to have Nick from Please Bring Me Home. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. You guys know what to do. I'll see you guys then. Peace out, y'all.